We're about 2 weeks away from the start of the BYU Cougars and training camp beginning for the football program. It's no time like the present to catch up with Connor Pay. He was one of the 5 guys selected to go with Kalani Sitake to Big 12 Media Days. Did he put his foot in his mouth? We're going to discuss that and more ahead on today's show.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you who like to call everydayers right here on the Locked On Podcast. Now we're going to say first listen, but also first view of the day if you're watching this on YouTube. But nonetheless, we are your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Of course, all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, pleased to welcome in once again Connor Pay, BYU team captain and all-around fine gentleman. And Connor, I'm going to start you off with an easy one here. Cam Rising, University of Utah star quarterback, goes in front of the media, Big 12 Media Day, and says, I am thinking about going down there and whooping their ass. Speaking of you at BYU, do you want to retort or respond in kind to Utah's star quarterback?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that I would like to say. But, I mean, at the end of the day, same, right back at you. And, you know, just a reminder that the game, you're hosting the game. So we're going to be going up there, Cam, just FYI.
That was pointed out a couple of times, by the way, by people on social media.
No, it was funny. I saw some of those, and they were pretty funny. But, no, I mean, look, we're all competitors. Right. And so like you have that feeling kind of in your heart before you go and you play anybody, and University of Utah especially, right? Like you want to go up there and you want to beat the crap out of them. And so that's how we feel. And we're glad that's how he feels too, because we want their best and we want to be able to beat their best. And so it should be a really fun game. But no, I second that message and send it right back to him. So
I think Cougar fans can respect that. Now, when it comes to media day events like that, you're talking a lot. You guys are sitting down with people at BYU TV, ESPN, Big 12 internal media, then also the local media that travels down from Salt Lake, etc. Give me a sense. Did you feel like you did anything that somebody may have in the works that they could blast you for? Or did you behave yourself overall?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I think so. I haven't seen anything damaging to my reputation in the media yet, but there's still time. There's still time.
Okay.
Of course, I'm sure I said plenty of stupid things, so I probably gave them a lot of source material.
Okay.
But no, it was a good day. It was a good day. I think it is a lot of talking. My voice was sore for a couple days after we were done, just because early wake-up call, 6 a.m. or whatever, get ready, have to be at the stadium at 8, media from 8 to 4, and you're just going. And so it definitely was a lot, right? Just a lot, just bouncing from thing to thing. And they mixed some fun things in too, like doing some photo shoots with us in uniform, and we got to play the new NCAA 25 game early, which was really fun. And it's like they mixed fun things in there with it, but honestly, overall, it was just a whole day of talking and being a hot in a suit in 115 degrees in Las Vegas.
Now, you did get some plaudits for your getup for this. Was this like months in the works, obviously, to wear what you wore to media day, or was it something that you put together last minute?
No, it was probably like a couple days before. I was just like, I knew everyone was going to wear matching suits or whatever, and like, well, matching pants and suit coat is what I mean. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's what everyone's going to be doing. I want to do something a little bit different. And so I had just gotten that sport coat a couple months ago from Mr. Mac, and so I was like, I think this color would go good with like some tan pants. And then I just happened to have some shoes that kind of like matched pretty good to the suit coat. I didn't buy those shoes for that purpose, but I just saw them in my closet and kind of held them up next to the suit coat. And I was like, I think they're actually laying right here, but I was like, these ones.
Okay. Nice.
And so it was like, I was like, they kind of match. So I was like, maybe I'll just do that. Wear some tan pants and the shoes can kind of match the suit coat. And yeah, I felt like it turned out pretty good. So
now, were you surprised that you were one of the 5 BYU players that represented BYU at Big 12 Media Days?
No, I don't think so. Just because they were planning on having me go last year as well.
Uh-huh.
And then last minute they made an adjustment, and I think they ended up sending either Ryan Rico or Cody instead.
They picked a punter over you last year? Come on.
Yeah, I know. Ryan deserved it. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess they didn't do a great job. So we had to be replaced. No, I'm just kidding. But no, they had told, because like I was already on the docket for it last year, and then it ended up not working out. So I figured I'd be on it this year. So
okay. One other thing on the Big 12 Media Days front. Favorite thing from Big 12 Media Days, and then we'll get to your least favorite in a moment. But favorite thing first.
I think that my favorite thing was getting that early look at NCAA 25, because obviously, like, a lot of us are excited about it, and that was kind of the first time that we had gotten to see like ourselves in a video game.
Yeah, like
it's kind of a trippy thing, and the game's really detailed, so I'm sure a lot of people have played it by now, so they kind of will know what I'm talking about. But just like the run-in at Lavelle was really detailed and almost exactly how we do it. And it's like, so seeing yourself and seeing your number and your name running out in a video game is very strange. And for how detailed they are, they do have me snapping with the wrong hand, but that's okay. That's okay. We can let that slide. But that was probably the highlight of Media Day, I think, for most of us, because like me and Darius got to play against each other, and like you kind of got a feel for the game the first time, and all of us were worried. All of us that like video games were worried that it was just going to turn out like Madden.
Sure. And
so we were like, man, EA is not going to be able to break the mold. Like, they're just going to stick to the Madden. It's going to suck. And the gameplay was so much better. At least in my opinion, it's way better. I don't know. There might be some people who are watching who have played it and don't like it, but I think the gameplay is a lot better, and I think that's been the feedback for most people. So I'd definitely say that was the highlight of Media Day for us.
Okay, and then conversely, what was your least favorite part? You already talked about the talking and having to talk to the media as long as you did, but was there anything else that you did not enjoy about it?
There wasn't anything that I like hated. I really don't like doing the super flashy like photo shoot things in uniform when they want you to do like little dances for TikTok and all this stuff. Like that's not really my speed. Okay. And I was I don't know, when they were doing that part and they were making us do a bunch of I had to do some weird dances and stuff, and I was getting pretty annoyed and pretty upset by the end of that. But so that was probably my least favorite part. And it was still fun doing that with the guys, but it was like the ones where I was off on my own and it was just me and the camera, and they were asking me to do all this weird stuff for their TikTok or whatever. Okay. And I was just like, ugh, I was like, oh man, I hate doing this kind of stuff. So
okay, first listener question here, because it relates to Big 12 Media Day, and then we're going to talk about EA Sports and College Football 25, because I want to talk to you more about that, because I think a lot of people are interested in your thoughts on it. But Robert asked this. I need to find out, what's with the hair for Connor?
Well, a few months ago, BYU released a new version of the honor code, and the collar rule doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. And so ever since that came out, I was like, and obviously they still want it to be well-groomed, so I keep it trimmed, and, I make sure I comb it and put product in it and stuff so that it doesn't just look wild and crazy. But I was just like, I'm just going to grow my hair out a little bit. I've never had it this long before, and so I was like, what? Now that that's a possibility for us, and not against the honor code anymore, I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. So we'll see how long I do it for, and it might get to a point where if it's too long for their liking, then maybe Kalani or someone else will ask me to trim it up a little bit, and if they do that, then I will. But as of right now, I'm just kind of rolling with it, and seeing how it goes. So
hey, I thought the flow looked really good, so that's my personal opinion.
Thank you.
All right, so you mentioned EA Sports College Football 25. You got an early look at it, obviously, by being there at Big 12 Media Days. We got a number of questions from listeners. I got questions of my own about it. I want your insight on this because it's been 11 years since we've had this game back in our lives, and we'll get to that next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is here for you guys to have fun during the summer. Now, all of us know that during the summer there's not as many sports going on, but if you want to still have some fun, you can go on the app with FanDuel and just have fun building up all kinds of dream bets, if that's what you're into, or you can look at all the different odds and maybe pick one or two that you want to take advantage of. But more importantly, if you're a BYU fan, you want to believe in the BYU football program. They have an over-under of 4.5 wins from our friends at FanDuel. You can go on and bet on that right now. You also can take 55-1 odds for BYU basketball to win the national title this upcoming season. It's all available to you from our friends at FanDuel. And the best news is all summer long, they're hooking up all customers, speaking of FanDuel, with their boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Once again, you can get that boost every single day at FanDuel.com. And it's all courtesy of your friends over at FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for being with us. All right, continuing on now with Connor Pay. And Connor, you talked about the fact you had a chance to play college football 25. They do have you snapping with the right hand. That was something I did notice when I opened the game for the first time. I did give my 5-year-old son first dibs on playing with BYU in the first game we played when we downloaded it. But my bigger question for you is, how cool is it to see this game back and to see yourself in a digital form?
It's pretty trippy, actually. I mean, we're all super excited that it's back because most of us, grew up with these games when we were kids. Like, I grew up playing the NCAA football games, and then, when I was 12 or 13, they ended up cutting them off. So it's like we all lived on the lifeline that was NCAA football 14. Mm-hmm. Like, I still have an Xbox 360 at my house right now, only so I can play that game. And so it's pretty fun to have it back, and just to kind of see yourself in a video game is pretty special, I think. I mean, I think I was talking to, or I think Waylon said this today that I agree with. It's like, I think we need to buy like hard copies of the game, like the disc version, so we can kind of just keep it as like a memory and just be like, all right, this is the video game we were in when we were in college. And so it's a pretty cool thing, because like you play with BYU and we score a touchdown or something, and you see everyone running to celebrate and all this stuff, and it's all your teammates, and then you see yourself come running in, and it's really like you're watching yourself on a screen in like a video game. It's like, it's kind of weird to like process almost.
Now, so if you're not old enough to maybe remember this, Connor, but the original EA college football game is called Bill Walsh College Football. It came out in 1994, and here's the thing. I was 7 years old when that came out. I had an older cousin who got a copy of it. It got me hooked on the video game franchise. I owned the later versions of Bill Walsh Football, and I quite legitimately, Connor, I wish I would have held on to him, but I owned every version of NCAA football from when it debuted, I think in 98 or 99, all the way through 2014. I am very impressed that your Xbox 360 held up, because I was doing the same thing you were doing, but in 2021, right at the height of when we were all kind of locked down with COVID, mine got the red ring of death, and so I have not played really consistently since that time, but I'm excited to have it back. I'm with you. I am planning on buying a physical copy of it just to start a collection, and literally, I want it for my son. I'm gonna just keep it for both my boys, I guess technically, and let them kind of grow up with it. But the other question that came in here from one of our listeners came in from Andrew. Who is he when he plays EA college football? Do you have a favorite team, or do you like to randomly just go with anybody?
Well, of course I'm going to be BYU.
Okay, I figured as
much.
How
can I not be the team, A, that I play for, and B, where I'm on the field?
Sure, yeah.
Like, it just it would feel strange to play with a different team. And like, I might, when I do like Road to Glory or something like that, I might like choose a different team. But if like by default my dynasty team, it's like, of course I'm going to choose BYU.
Okay. Other question that comes in here from Taylor. How do you feel about your rating overall?
I'm fine with it. Like, I think, I mean, I don't really know what their criteria was to rate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was some, it's been pretty fun, like, to hear everybody on the team come back. Some guys are pissed about certain ratings, and some guys are freaking pumped. So it's like, it's pretty funny. So like, I don't know what the criteria is. I can't remember what I was. It was I was a 79 or an 80.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah.
And so it's like, and I thought that was fine. Like, I'm not mad about that for sure. But it's like, when you go through like the individuals things of like what your ratings are, it's kind of like, okay, I'm not really sure how they would know that. Like, it's just a guess, you know? And so like, there's that aspect of it, you know? And so,
Sure.
but no, it's been pretty fun to like see everybody's ratings and see, cause I'm assuming if they do it like Madden, they'll do live roster updates each week. And so who knows what everyone's ratings are going to be by the end of the season.
Well, considering there are like 10 dudes on the BYU roster in that game that are like computer generated names, yeah, they need to do a roster patch because there are multiple offensive linemen. I'm like, hey, where's that guy? So maybe they didn't opt in. Maybe
there was a couple. There was one that was starting.
Yeah, I know.
When I first started the game, and I was like, that's not a real person. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
We have a quarterback named Pete Anderson, apparently, that's in the
yeah.
So I don't know. But, yeah, I'm hoping.
Cool. I'm glad he's on the team. I've never met him, but glad he's around.
All right, two other related questions. They're both similar in style, so we'll ask both of them though. So Zach asked this: who did Connor pick to play for his first dynasty in CFB 25? And then Bryce asked a related question: what's the team outside of BYU that you hope to develop into a contender in college football 25?
Well, obviously the first team I played with Dynasty was BYU.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about that already, but if there's one team outside of BYU that I'd want to develop into a dynasty, I think,
I'll give you mine real quick while you're thinking about it.
Yeah, what's yours?
The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Now,
here's
Hawaii,
the thing. Nice.
Hawaii was a team back when at 14, the last versions of NCAA football came out. I'm with you. A lot of times I would play as BYU in a dynasty mode, but if I wanted to kind of branch out, there were two other teams I would pick, either Hawaii or North Texas, and I kind of alternate those two and build them up. So those, I've already started a dynasty with Hawaii, and let's just put it this way, my skills are still pretty rusty, and I'm getting my rear end kicked pretty routinely so far.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is I'm trying to think of a team that's not already really good.
Yeah.
Because it was like in NCAA 14, my go-to team outside of BYU was Oregon.
Sure, yeah.
Because Oregon was OP in that game in NCAA 14. I think was it DeAnthony Thomas? Was he still there at that time? I can't remember. Maybe that was NCAA 12. I can't remember. Like, I know he was in there at some window though.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was Marcus Mariota. Or no, Marcus Mariota was later, huh?
Marcus would have been done right in that time frame.
Yeah, I can't remember. But anyways, I know that they had one running back who was like unstoppable. And so like their offense was so fun to play with. And so it's like Oregon was always my go-to team. But I'm trying to think of like a team that would be like lower level that would be fun to like bring into the national spotlight on the game. I don't know. I'm gonna have to. Can we cover that question another week? Let me do some thinking on that. Let me do some thinking on who I'd want to build.
Well, that's the thing. We'll let you get started with it, and then obviously you can update us as you go along here. We'll be
exactly. Let me do it in real life, and then I'll give you guys progress reports.
We can do that. All right. We got some other questions just about the upcoming season as well, and we'll delve into those momentarily because there's some good ones in here. And we're just, like I said, we're a couple of weeks away from the start of training camp, so we'll dig into more of that momentarily right here on Locked On Cougars. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you've not done so already, all the questions that have been submitted and have been answered by Connor today have come from our Locked On Cougars Insider group. It's been a really, really fun feature to have as part of the show and also the podcast. If you guys like to be a part of it, click the link in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening wherever you are listening, and join us today. 14-day free trial, $5 a month afterwards, and helps us get studs like Connor on the podcast. Let's be very frank about it. It's an NIL deal we have with Connor to keep him on the podcast, and support like you guys do with the Insider Group is a big part of that. All right, Connor, a couple of questions before we go here. First one from Tyson. So we're looking at the start of training camp. He says, what are Connor's goals in fall camp, and where do you see the most need for improvement ahead of the first game against Southern Illinois?
I think for me, my goals going into fall camp are make sure that I know Coach Wood's system like the back of my hand. And so that's the last few weeks. That's been a huge emphasis for me, is just making sure that, because we can't do necessarily much of the on-field physical preparation right now. Like, I'm not in pads. Like, I can't work on my shoulder spears or my hand placement in the same way that I'll be able to once training camp starts. So a lot of this stuff is just prepping mentally and then prepping your body physically for when you actually get to start doing the physical part of football. And so that the last few weeks has been a lot of that, making sure that he and I are on the same page and I know exactly what he wants when I'm on the field. And I think that's step number one, because then I can kind of free myself up to play fast and to focus on other things, focus on what the defense is doing, making sure my footwork and hand placement is all in the right spot. And I think that especially early on in training camp, that's going to be a huge part of my focus, making sure that I'm perfect with my footwork, my hand placement, my force output, making sure that I'm moving the line of scrimmage, because I'm a pretty smart player. Like, I'm always going to be on the right person, but I want to be moving them the right way as well. And so making sure that I'm playing on their line or their side of the line of scrimmage, I think those are going to be the biggest points of emphasis for me as we start training camp. And was the back half of the question for me individually, or just for the O-line or offense as a whole?
It seems like it could be any which way you want to take it.
Okay. Yeah. I think I kind of just mentioned already my personal areas for improvement, but I think for the O-line as a group, I think just getting that camaraderie a little bit and getting used to doing what Coach Woods wants us to do together. And then obviously over the course of the first couple weeks of training camp, solidifying a depth chart so that we can start to build that camaraderie together. But I think just narrowing down and tightening up our technique and always being the most physical group on the field. That's been a focus of Coach Woods' all off season, and I think that's going to carry into training camp too, as it should, so that we can have a much more consistent ground attack this year.
Now, this is a related question. Comes from the great Ed Norton, a good friend of the podcast, and he asked this. Trevor Matich was on the Wise Guys podcast, and I actually heard this interview. Trevor Matich, obviously national champion in 1984, played in the NFL for years as well. He said that he thought last year's offensive line didn't, he used the quote, finish plays throughout most of games. What does Connor believe he meant by that?
Well, I think he meant exactly what he said. Like, I think there was times last year where we weren't staying connected on our blocks, and so we were being shed late, and so those 3 or 4 yard gains could have been 6 or 7 if we were able to stay on the right person and sustain through the entire play. And I think that a lot of that just stems from mindset overall. As a group, and I think that's an area that we've improved greatly, not only me individually, but also as a group and as an O-line. I think Coach Woods kind of brings that edge a little bit to finish plays. You're staying connected and locked onto your guys till a second or two past the whistle. Would much rather have the problem of you getting a personal foul because you're playing too hard versus having to ramp you up to do your job every single play. We would much rather have to rein it in than try to push it.
That's what I've heard from coaches for years. I'd much rather have to rein a guy back versus having to motivate him to get back. So,
and I think a lot of that too comes with the system that we're in now. Guys understand their job a lot better, and when you understand exactly what's expected of you, you're able to go attack it and play fast and play physical because you're not wondering. And so I think that's another area where we took big strides in spring ball. And I think it was noticeable for like the rest of the offense and the defense. They felt it. And so that's something we need to continue on into training camp. So I think he meant exactly what he said.
Now, a related question from our good friend Dan. He says this: what new offensive schemes is BYU implementing this year? And you don't have to get into specifics, but are there wrinkles you guys are adding?
Yeah, I won't get into details for obvious reasons. But yeah, there's 3 or 4 new things that we've implemented that I think are going to be really really cool, like little wrinkles. They're not gonna be staple plays, right? Because it's you want to be able to run a bunch of different things, but if you're average at everything, you're a master of nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's we're not gonna overinflate it to the point where we're average at everything. There's obviously some things like our zone game and things that's kind of been a staple for us in years past that we want to be really, really good at. And then there's going to be wrinkles that A-Rod and Coach Woods have put in there that I'm pretty excited about. And I think there's going to be a good complement to our offense. So yeah, there's 3 or 4 new ones that I'd never run before that I'm pretty excited about.
Well, keep your eyes out, Cougar fans. It should be fun to obviously track that. Just a comment here from Bailey Eisenbarth. Tell Connor I say hello. So there you go from Bailey.
Hello, Bailey.
Kind of funny to have that one in here. All right, other questions here real quick, Connor, before we go along. Which conference team does Connor wish they would be playing this season, but they aren't? That comes from Laramie. Is there one that stands out?
That's a great question. Who do I wish we were playing?
The one I would probably insert. Well, there's 2 I would insert, and I don't believe you're playing either of these teams because they're both losses from last year. And I think they're 2 of the ones that probably would stick with you. I'm thinking of TCU. And I'm thinking of West Virginia.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely want another crack at. Wish we had another crack at West Virginia. There's really 3.
Okay.
I would really like another crack at TCU, West Virginia, and Iowa State.
Okay. There you go. So,
those are ones that I wish we would have had another chance to play them, just because that was just so not us, and in those games, and that was, we played so poorly, and it was just pretty embarrassing, and so another chance to just show those guys, what BYU football actually is, because what they saw and what they played against was not it.
Okay, comes from Mark here. This is on the recruiting front. Is there anything we can do as regular BYU fans that could help with recruiting? Anything we can do, outreach, or anything else that would matter or make a difference in Connor's mind?
Yeah, I think our fans do a great job of being supportive of, especially once you're here and you're on the team. I would think just in today's day and age, honestly, following people on social media is a big deal. Okay. And you can comment on their stuff and do other things. That's all great too, and they'll enjoy that a lot. But guys care about followers, and so I would just say that for some of our bigger recruits, fans simply following them on social media to get their follower count up actually will go a really long ways, I think. And obviously just commenting on their stuff, saying that you want them at BYU, the more interaction you have with these people or these recruits on social media, the more BYU is going to be in their head. And I think that can actually go a long way. And obviously to get the best players, that's going to take money. So, I mean, fans who are able to do it, donating to the Royal Blue Collective. And I know obviously it's going to look a little different here soon with the revenue share and all that, but that's kind of the reality of where we're at. If you want to get the best players and you want to retain the best players, you're going to have to pay them a little bit. And so it's for fans who can do that, that's another great option. But I think honestly, a lot of fans don't realize how far just those interactions on social media can go for a high school player or for a transfer player. So.
All right, 3 more questions. We'll do them kind of rapid fire here. 2 of them take us back to Big 12 Media Days, kind of where we started today's conversation, and then one's kind of off the topics we've talked about today. So, first one comes from Tyler. Was there a player or coach at Media Days that Connor stepped away that he was impressed or connected with in Vegas?
Player or coach that I was impressed with,
or somebody you may have not met before that you connected with.
Yeah, no, I can't remember his name, to be honest with you, but the quarterback at West Virginia.
Oh, Garrett Green.
Yeah, Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett was really cool. We shared a locker room with them when we were changing and getting ready, putting our uniforms on for to go do the photo shoots and all that stuff. And he was just super chill. We were all just us and the West Virginia guys and some of the Baylor dudes. We were all just kind of chopping it up. And some of the guys are kind of like, man, like too cool for school to talk to and all this crap. And Garrett wasn't like that at all. Like he was super chill. Really, all the West Virginia guys were really sweet. And we just, in the locker room, we were just chopping it up. And obviously it was easy to start the conversation because Ryder went to West Virginia. Yeah. So we were asking about Ryder, how he was doing and all that stuff. And so, but yeah, no, Garrett was a cool guy.
Very cool. All right, next one. Ask him what his most embarrassing moment was at Big 12 Media Days. They added this. This comes from Dirk. He said he embarrassed himself, but he also added that you said that's kind of normal.
That's what he said. He said that's kind of normal.
No, he said that. He said that's the quote that you used apparently in one of the interviews. He must have heard or seen or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely did say that, but was he saying that that's pretty normal for me?
No, he was just saying that you said that. So.
Oh, okay, that's funny because I was like, man, this guy's coming at me. Am I embarrassing myself all the time?
We're always embarrassing ourselves. Are you kidding me? We're doing a podcast on YouTube, Connor. We're asking for embarrassment at this point.
Well, there was a couple things. There was a few moments.
Okay.
A couple of which I probably shouldn't share.
That's okay.
So I won't. Not for any bad reasons, really, but just because I don't want to say bad words on the podcast.
Okay, fair enough.
I guess there was a couple times where like they would ask us questions like, if Kalani could be anything for Halloween, like what would you want him to be? And like some of the answers were so funny, but also like super embarrassing. Like, I think I told him I would want him to put a shell on his back and be Bowser.
Okay, well there you go.
And I think who was it? I can't remember if it was Darius or J-Rob who said that he would be a Teletubby.
Oh,
and I was like, oh no. Like right in front of his face too. Like he was sitting right there. And then I think was it Chase? Chase might have said he should be Maui.
Okay.
And so we were all giving him crap because we were saying that that's cultural appropriation and all sorts of crap like that. Of course, obviously.
Well, there's extra gassers.
I enjoyed that one though. I think he liked that one.
There's extra gassers coming for Jacob and Darius for suggesting a Teletubby. It feels like.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what he said. He said, "I'm texting Coach Phyllis right now, and letting him know to tear you boys up."
All right. We'll get.
So no, there were some fun moments like that, but
sure. All right, final word will go to Jimmy here. If Connor could be the drummer for any famous band, what band would it be? We know you're a big music guy, so what do you got?
Oh, man. I can only pick one?
Apparently, just one.
That's such a hard question. I mean, okay. I'm going to say a couple, but they're for different reasons.
Okay.
So for like different scenarios. Okay, I'm going to divide this up into scenarios if that's okay.
Okay.
Hopefully that he thinks that this is still an appropriate answer. My favorite band of all time is Dream Theater.
Okay.
So like because of that reason, I would love to play with that band.
Okay.
Because they've been my favorite my whole life. In terms of like size and fame, I think Slipknot would be a pretty crazy band to play for. Mm-hmm. Playing just absolutely massive shows with just crazy metalheads. Like, I think that would be a pretty incredible experience. And then in the same breath, I'd say like Metallica.
Okay.
Not only because those songs are pretty easy to play. And so it's like, not only do I think that I might be able to pull that one off, the other two I absolutely could not in a million years ever pull that off.
Okay.
But just like when you look at Metallica, they're selling out 80,000 person stadiums every single show. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that would be insane. And when it's like that is your concert, you're not the headliner. You're not having bands open for you. They're coming to see one band, mm-hmm. and it's just you. Nobody's on tour with you. And so it's like that's even crazier. And so I don't know. Those are the ones that popped into my head just for those separate reasons.
All right, Slipknot, Metallica, and Dream Theater. There you go, Jimmy. Those are answers. All right. Well, Connor, there we go. I think that's all the questions we got. That's all the time we got. We're a little bit over time for today's podcast, but a big thank you to you, as always, for stopping by. We will check in with you in a couple of weeks as training camp gets ready to get underway, all right?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, for Connor, I'm Jake. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in and making Locked On Cougars your first listen and or view of the day. And a big thank you to all of you once again for being everydayers as well. And until tomorrow, have a great rest of your day. This has been the Locked On Cougars podcast.